Welcome everybody, and welcome Charlyne to
Hi.
Ask Me Anything.
Yay.
Okay, so how this is going to go. So first of all, my name is Melanie Ewan. For those who don't know me, it's really nice to meet you all. I'm one of the co-founders and lead advisors at Volition, and we are an international advising firm for startups and entrepreneurs. We have 11 different advisors who each specialize in something, in some sort of common pain point or knowledge gap for entrepreneurs who are in their early to growth stage. So Charlyne is one of our Volition advisors. She's also a people and culture specialist, and I'm really excited to have her here talking today about team management during difficult times. So what we're gonna do is I have the screen up here so you can check out if you want to talk to Charlyne. You can connect with her on LinkedIn. You can also connect with her on Pick My Brain, which is the portal that we use. And you can also connect with me if you'd like. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to flip this over to Charlyne in just a moment so that she can introduce herself, introduce a little bit about the topic, and then the floor is open. So please do send your questions. This will be interview style, so I'll be managing the chat. So please feel free to ask questions there or have comments there. You can also use the Q&A function, which is even better because then it's all in one place and I can very easily see your questions. And then I'll pass them on to Charlyne. And same with Facebook Live. Please do just ask questions away in the chat and I will make sure that Charlyne gets those from you. So I'm going to stop sharing now and I'm going to flip it over to Charlyne to introduce herself.
Yeah, awesome. Well, thanks so much for having me. I'm really, first off, hope everyone's doing well and are safe and surviving, and definitely an odd time in an odd circumstance to be doing an Ask Me Anything, but this hopefully is really relevant to people at this time, and I'm really excited to kind of share what I know from my experience, as well as quite frankly, what a lot of people have been kind of pinging me about and asking me. So I have 15 years experience in HR, as well as working with entrepreneurs. So I've been a mentor and advisor in Vancouver startup community for the past 8 years or so. I used to run a VC-backed accelerator program for 3 years, as well as a mentor and advisor at lots of different programs, such as Launch Academy, Spring, as well as with the Volition advisor. So I've been doing a lot of ad hoc advising and answering questions from different entrepreneurs that I know about kind of what's going on today. And I was really excited to kind of share a couple key themes to kind of keep in mind, and then obviously dig in and answer people's nitty-gritty questions. So the first thing, as we're all approaching this craziness, a couple things to keep in mind. So just remember, this is all temporary. It's temporary for our businesses. It's temporary for us as people and humans. And, we're going to continue to see change. I've been attending so many webinars, and as I'm an senior HR business partner right now at a tech company, so very much on top of these things, advising my managers and my people and staying up on it. And the one thing is that we're going to see tons of change over the next 12, maybe even 18 months. Really, The crystal ball right now is we're in this until there's a vaccine in regards to life going back as normal, and then who even knows what that means. So, all to say for businesses, the great news in all that is you're in survival mode right now, and that's okay. So the things you come up with that help you survive now, the things you come up with that help your business and your people 6 months from now, 12 months from now, that's all going to change. And don't worry about anything being permanent right now. So the solutions now might not be the solutions. You don't need to make them sustainable. You don't need to make them scalable. It's very, very much in that survival mode. If there's any parents out there, I'm a parent, I have a 3-year-old. It's very reminiscent of like the early infant days where you're just trying to survive and you're trying to come up with a new routine and a new normal and celebrate the wins, and don't stress about the days that you barely get through, but just kind of keep trugging along and try to find that new normal.
Yeah.
The other thing I think that as small businesses, which I'm going to assume most people are, we really have a real gift with being a small business in this time. We can be really flexible, really creative, and really personal in how we're supporting our teams, even at like an individual level. So if you were a company, if I was working in a company with 300 people across different countries with different statuses in this pandemic, it would be a lot harder to come up with solutions that had to be a little bit more consistent. But we have 35 people at CTO.ai right now, and it's really easy to kind of treat people on an individual basis, deal with individuals instead of having to kind of group and kind of segment your population to try to put some customization in place. You can really get personal and creative, and that's a really great thing as a small business. You have that ability to be creative and flexible. And then, you know, the other piece that I've been talking with a lot of entrepreneurs about, and kind of the downside of being a small business, is sometimes that close relationship we naturally have with our teams in this early stage. It's very personal, and we feel like family. But the one message I've been kind of helping people find is, remember, you're still the boss, and this is still an employment relationship, and it's okay to say no to people. It's okay to make tough decisions. And, you know, I can definitely speak to some of the ones I've seen, and some of the tough decisions we went through. We did do mass layoffs during this time. And, you know, it's okay to say to somebody that doesn't work, or make a choice that benefits your business. Your job as a business is to stay alive so that you can employ people now, or if you can't employ people now, you can employ people in the future. It doesn't benefit anyone if you aren't able to sustain your business. That doesn't benefit anyone in the long run. So it's okay to kind of stay the boss and say no, and maybe make people unhappy right now. That's an okay thing to do too.
Yeah. Giving permission. Yeah. Okay. So I'm hearing the two top themes you just covered are that this is temporary, don't need to be perfect, doesn't need to be sustainable, plus the gift of the small business. And I think there's a lot of themes in there, and Charlyne can also speak to whether you're coming from the employee standpoint and concerned about the decisions your bosses are making, you want to ask questions here, she can help with that. But also if you are in the founder, the executive, the boss role, how to manage that. So either kind of direction, I've heard her give really, really fantastic advice. And there's something that Charlyne, you said to me recently, which was that COVID has given us an opportunity to look different after this is over. And that you have to blow things up to support your teams. I know you've already touched on that a bit, but would you be able to give kind of an example of what you mean by that?
Yeah, for sure. I think so. As an HR person, I'm really big on questioning why. I don't really like to be told what to do. And I really hate the answer that we just do this because that's the way we've always done it. So a really great example, I did a talk once on the 40-hour work week and why we do this 9-to-5 day. And it's really from the Industrial Revolution. Like, it's just been in place for so long and we just never question it. And I think that COVID's really given us a chance for some of those businesses that maybe didn't question it, didn't want to question it, to have to question it. And it leaves us in a better place for creativity. So I've had a lot of chats with folks that, you know, they are working for employers or they are employers that didn't have work from home policies. We didn't have a work from home policy. We are a tech company and we work from home 1 day a week because our management team and stuff just didn't feel like we had what was set up to be successful. And now it's kind of forced us to work from home, and we've been forced to adjust. And it wasn't clean. It was messy and it was hard, but it forced us to do it. And we're actually in a place now where we're closing down our office. Like, we're not going back to the giant office we had in Gastown. We are going to look to phase that out. And that change and just questioning why, and then just kind of taking that leap of faith, because we had no choice, really allowed us to kind of expand how we do things. And we've actually found a lot of benefit to that. So obviously huge cost savings, first off, to be able to balance our budget and extend our runway as a business, but also just that creativity to talk to people. And again, as a small business, we only have 35 people. And we can start asking people about what they think and how they like working, and just kind of come up with some creative solution of what it looks like for us to go back to business.
Amazing. Okay. So something that you mentioned around, was around it not being temporary and thinking about 12 to 18 months. And I see a question's come in, so I'll just look at that in just a moment. And I know that you've already put thought into what the next 12 to 18 months could look like. So I'm wondering if you could touch on, now that we're kind of in a lot of places in the world, and I'm in Madrid, by the way, and Charlyne's in Vancouver, if anyone's wondering. A lot of places in the world were kind of past the crisis shock mode and starting to get back into sort of normal schedules, and we're starting to question, what does this look like? So what's some advice you would give for preparing for this kind of next phase of COVID?
So, I mean, you know, the start with the end in mind. Like, I really think you have to know your business for the next 12 months, and you have to know your expectations have to be reset. So where can you be in the next 12 months? And I think planning for 12 months is a smart mode, right? You know, hope for the plan for the worst, hope for the best. So I think, you know, once you know, are you just holding down the fort? We very much are holding down the fort. We have VC money. We are pre-revenue. We have no customers. We're certainly not getting any in the next 3 to 6 months. So we're taking this time to really focus on our product, engage in community, and we have a really clear objectives, and we use OKRs where we want to be by the end of the year. And that changed, obviously. And then you can kind of work from that, and you can plan what needs to happen for that sort of stuff. So that's going to look different for every business. I think the other thing that's really smart to plan, and I've seen a lot of this with some of the webinars, and I think some countries have, I think it was Hong Kong, they're calling it the circuit breaker. And so we have to plan for that second wave, right? Yeah. So some companies, and again, if you're a factory, right, getting everyone back into the factory is what you need to do to as that next stage. But I think we now know what it looks like to, within a very short period, shut everything down, and we can plan for that. And I have seen a lot of webinars and countries that have hit that circuit breaker of, at a certain point, you know, our health people are monitoring that kind of curve that we know it's going to go back up, and there'll be a certain threshold where they'll shut shit down again, for like, you know, lack of a better word. And you need to be prepared for business. I think at this point, not knowing what that looks like, you're really, you know, you're doing yourself a disservice. We know what that meant. So I think that's a really important piece in planning for the future as well.
Okay. Thank you. Okay. So I see that there's question coming in around kind of like the tough questions around pay.
Yeah.
I'm going to quickly launch our poll here, because I'm curious. For the person who asked that, but also everyone else who's in the room here. So the questions that we're asking is, how big is your team, including founders and contractors? And has your business been impacted by COVID? And this just will help us kind of place where everyone's at. So I've just launched the poll. It should be right in Zoom. And this should be this can also be live on Facebook. So if you want to start submitting your answers, I see there's a couple of people who have submitted. So I know that there's at least 5 people here. Okay, awesome. I'll keep it open for another second. I'm also gonna ask my team to launch the Facebook Live poll, which is a new to us feature, so hopefully it works. Okay, awesome. Thank you so much. I'm gonna end polling here in Zoom, and let's see what we have. So we actually have a range. So we have founder and co-founder, as well as 10 to 30 and 50 plus.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah, and we have you been impacted by COVID is everything from not at all, which is a couple, to a lot. Here, I will share the results actually, because I can do that. I just realized I can share them. So, okay, so Facebook Live poll hasn't been launched yet. It will be in a second. So this is good for us to know. Very interesting, I think. And I'm just gonna screenshot that for my own knowledge sake. Awesome. Okay, cool. Thank you so much for participating in that. That's very helpful. Okay, so the question is, I'm just have something covering my chat box. Okay, so the question was around if you don't have pay. So if you notice, or you're not able to pay, if you notice that you cannot pay all the salaries anymore because of what's going on right now, is it okay to ask your employees if they're willing to volunteer in the meantime? Or what are other strategies beyond that as well?
Yeah, for sure. So, okay. So, I mean, my official HR answer as an HR professional working for a company that is not 2 or 3 employees is not really. You know, that's what the government will tell you, basically. So there are lots of great programs that aren't black and white. Like there's obviously the wage subsidy top up here in Canada. There's a program also called job sharing, where the kind of short version of that is, if you have like 2 designers, say, and they each work a 40-hour work week, and you only have 30 hours of work total, you kind of give them each 15 hours, and, you know, you can kind of accordion that up and down, and they get a little bit of EI plus their wages. So they tend to make more than if you laid them off completely. So first thing is explore those programs. The second thing is, I mean, as I tell all entrepreneurs, and this wouldn't really be appropriate for a bigger company, but if you're a smaller company, you could ask, you know, I don't know your relationship with these people. I know for me personally, having worked in startups, you know, I was team number 5 at Lighthouse Labs. We're 60 people now across Canada. You know, if this had happened then, I would have volunteered, right? But I had that relationship with my bosses. I was number 5 as a senior in a company I really believed in. So I would have been personally open to that conversation. But I think it really depends on your relationship. I think a blanket ask is not okay. I think it really depends on your relationship. And then I think it depends on why you're doing it. Like, what is your intention? So for me, myself, I'm a complete workaholic. If I wasn't working right now, I would be struggling with my mental health straight up. So in that situation, having the opportunity to volunteer is actually a really win-win situation for my employer and myself. And if you are coming from that angle, then I think, again, small teams, know your people, have those conversations, especially entrepreneurs get creative, but I think it has to be a very fine line. It can't be predatory in any way. It can't be only for the benefit of your business and have no benefit to the employee. And I think really clear expectations have to be set around it. I kind of it sounds a little bit almost like when I advise startups on like the free internship, which again, officially not okay.
Yeah.
But you know, like it can be a win-win. People who need experience to get a job and need a job to get experience, that can be a really win-win situation if it's actually a genuine win-win situation. If you're overworking your intern and making them get coffee and crappy tasks, that's not a win-win situation. If you get them to work 3 days a week, you know, you give them some clear expectations, you give them some meaningful work, that's a win-win. So that's, you know, that's the gray area. And that's what I'd say is know your people, have a real think about it, have a think about your intentions. I probably would not say they need to work 40 hours a week, but if it's like, you know, someone monitoring an email account that's in your customer success team a couple days a week to kind of keep it going and keep that relationship alive, ask them, but also be open that they say no, and just, again, make sure. So super gray area, but I think you could potentially make it work. But for the record, not sitting here as an HR professional telling you that's a sanctioned strategy to use, but I also have been an entrepreneur and work with them and understand that, you know, gray is the area we all play in.
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. Glad that was clear.
Cool. Yeah.
Non-committally clear.
Yeah. No, it's great. And I think like speaking myself as a founder of a small company, that for us being really transparent from the beginning was important, like having one-on-one conversations with each of our team members to be like, I imagine this is what you're feeling. What are you feeling? Which I wanted to touch on that because you talked about the mental health piece, which is obviously big. And this is a question that was especially coming up in the last couple of months, but I assume it's going to continue to come up, especially and depending on how lockdown measures shift. Because I know here in Spain, it's day 46 of us not leaving our houses at all.
Yeah.
And our mental health, as of like pretty much everyone collectively last week, was like, I'm not okay. As of last week, it's like, I can do a month, that's it. So I'm curious how that's going to play out in other areas. So I'm curious about if you have any tactics around how to support your team members, how to support like anxiety and fears. So fears of being let go and or just anxiety around COVID and recession.
Yeah. And I'm personally struggling this as an HR professional and balancing my own like mental health. And I'm at home with a 3-year-old, like there's a lot going on for a lot of people. And then I have a team to support. So I think that the first thing is keeping an eye on what you can control and not taking on too much as an employer. I've been checking in with our teams. Like I check in kind of on a rotating schedule of people, asking how they're doing. And, you know, but I also am just aware I can only do so much for them. You know, I know of resources available, so you can definitely equip yourself. There's a lot of helplines, a lot of resources available. You can do a lot of research. Some of your benefit plans might be offering additional mental health things. So definitely check what's there and make sure those are offered to people. And then from beyond that point, all you can really do is just ask what you can do for them, right? All you can do is help them in that scope of work and just kind of make sure they know that you're there, that they're supported, they're heard, and then just encourage them if they need to talk to counselors and things like that. So just be careful you kind of don't take on more than you can impact. But what you can impact is those fears of job security. And you can do that by being very transparent. I believe strongly in transparency across companies anyways. And I say that having never worked for a company of more than like 300 people across Canada. So again, I'm going to assume most people are small-ish, a few 50-plussers, but I think being transparent as you can be is really important. And one of the things we did do layoffs, and I actually am very proud of the way our leadership team did them. I know it was a really hard thing, and definitely a few things that we did were really key. One, for the people who are staying, like doing layoffs, and especially if you do multiple rounds, and I was around in 2009 and was all involved in this, doing multiple rounds is really brutal. So if at all possible, plan ahead, plan your budget ahead, cut once, maybe cut a little bit harder or a little bit deeper, and try to do it once if you can. if you can't, or things change, right? Like you think you're going to do it once and 6 months later, like things are different, really communicate what that round left. So one of the things we were able to do in our planning was say to the people that were retained, hey, everyone, this was really hard, but I want to tell you all right now, we have runway for 24 months. We've gutted our budget. And, you know, and that's saying we kind of prepared for nuclear winter. Again, we're a VC backed pre-revenue startup, totally different scenario than maybe some other folks, but we planned that. We knew that going into those layoffs. They weren't arbitrary. They weren't easy decisions. We made them with the future of the business in mind. And, you know, again, it's prepare for the worst, hope for the best. And, you know, maybe we pick up in 6 months from now, maybe, you know, we prepared so well and our customer base really surprises us and they do come back to us. Like, who knows, but we are prepared. And those people who have jobs right now know they have jobs from a financial standpoint for the next 24 months. And if you can only do that for the next 3 months, then do that. But that kind of transparency of like, hey, this, especially when you're doing layoffs, it makes everyone really scared. And you want to make sure that you're really transparent, the reasons, you know, and just being really as open as you can, especially those retained staff. I would say you can probably err on the side of being more transparent with the retained staff. I mean, you obviously don't want to be lying to the people that you let go and kind of blowing smoke up their butts, but you know, you got to focus on the people who are staying and really solidify those people because they're feeling super insecure. So I think it's just, again, and then, you know, if things are like being upfront with people, giving them a heads up, like, hey guys, like our sales numbers, we missed them for the month, or, you know, really, we thought we had 3 months and things are not doing as well. So if you don't already have regular, like weekly check-ins, over communication right now, you know, the CEOs or the stakeholders standing up, leaders standing up and giving those updates so that people can go to sleep at night kind of knowing where their company is, good or bad. And if it's bad, then you want to make sure you're addressing like what you're doing about it or what this could mean. People always look at the lens of like, what does this mean for me? They, you know, that's just our caveman brains go there. So really making sure you're thinking through that when you're communicating to people and having a plan, and then, you know, having side conversations, having someone, hey, I want to give you a heads up. Things are looking a little crazy. Like, you know, how are you doing? Can you start calling your bank now? Right. Instead of here's a piece of paper that says you have no income, you know, can you give people unofficial notice or heads up that this is coming down the pipe? And I know that looks different for every culture, every company. Again, the smaller you are, probably the easier it is, which again is a real gift when you're a smaller company. You can be a little bit more nimble, agile. Obviously, if you're calling in from a 100-person company, there might be some barriers, but I would push on your leadership to be as transparent as possible during these times.
Yeah. Okay. So I had a question come in that was kind of riffing off this exact content around what happens when you get to that point that you do have to lay them off. So essentially the question is, how do you let people go?
So letting people go is a couple key things for best practices. One, it is not ad hoc. It is a choreographed dance. You need every piece of that process planned, and every person involved in that process needs to know their part. That is where I've done a ton of terminations in my career, and I've supported managers, and I've seen horrible ones and I've seen really good ones. It's good in quotation marks. It's never easy. So the thing you can do is to be fair to those people is make sure straight up you've got your shit together. I don't know any other way to put it. And you've got yourself organized. So it should never be on a whim. It should be very well planned. You know, lean on people in your network to help walk through those details. If you're going to do a group ones, the way I highly suggest it, more than, you know, I'd say more than 2-3 people. 3 people, you can probably have individual conversations. But the downside of that is people find out. And actually, I just heard about a company in Vancouver, and I talked to the founder before about suggesting how to do layoffs. And they were like, I don't want to do a group layoff. And I'll talk to you about how to do a group layoff properly, in my opinion. And he was just like, I don't want to, I owe people that one-on-one time. But he was laying off 15 people. And what happened, and I've seen it happen time and time again, is the person who had a 9 a.m. meeting with the CEO, who was also their manager. So that wasn't like really like the spidey senses weren't going. But one, he left his calendar open by accident. And so people saw all these meetings on a Monday. You know, all he had to do is, and it doesn't even matter if it's like, doesn't say the person's name. It just was all these 30-minute busy slots on a Monday, not normal for that company. And then essentially the 9 a.m. person gets laid off. They're like, fine, you cut off their Slack, you cut off their email. Everyone's got each other's phone numbers, especially in a small company. The person who was at 3 o'clock knew they were getting laid off at 3 o'clock and they had to wait from 9 to 3 p.m. to talk. And that's just like, in my opinion, that is inhumane. And I know the intention was good. The intention was, I want to give people FaceTime. People deserve to hear it from me. And especially as founders, I get that. Like, I've coached, I've never been the founder that had to make that hard decision at the end of the day. So I get it. I've seen the like emotional turmoil it is for founders to make that call, but it's not really about you. It's about what's good for them. So the way I suggest doing it, if it's more than 1 or 2 people, or is you do a group. And the way we did it is we had a Zoom meeting. So kind of, we had everything organized. We had all our paperwork teed up. We knew step by step. We had follow-up things. The one thing I'd also suggest, if you're letting go a very senior person or a very influential person or someone kind of on the leadership team level, have a conversation with them before. It can be half an hour before, but I think it's really crappy if you're like a senior leader and you get told next to the junior dev that you're being let go in kind of an unceremonious way. So I would maybe potentially let a few of those people that you feel can handle it, and just even half an hour before, of like, hey, the meeting in half an hour, we're doing mass layoffs. Unfortunately, you're being impacted. I'm going to follow up with you after, but don't go to the meeting, and, you know, have your script, like do it properly and formally and officially, but do it ahead of time. And so what we did is we literally, about half an hour before the meeting, we threw the meetings in people's calendar. We didn't do it way in advance. If you can do it organically in advance and have a meeting that maybe was already set for your teams, that's a great way, but we didn't. So we did it half an hour before, because we know people are going to be like, uh-oh, what's up? People didn't actually know that there were separate meeting invites. One of the benefits of Zoom, I've done it in person, where you have to literally walk people physically to 2 rooms, which makes it a little bit harder. But we actually, because of Zoom, people got 1 of 2 calendar invites. Some people put it together and were like, how come there's 2 different ones? I'm like, please just go to the right room. You know, again, you got to hold it down for like half an hour, 15 minutes if you can. It depends, you know, if your teams are spread out or not, whatever. So what we did is we had 2 managers go in the room with the retained employees, and we had the CEO, myself, and our COO in the room with the departing employees. And essentially that meeting needs to be short. It's 15 minutes max. Any termination meeting, 15 minutes max. I know that as founders, we want to explain and feel like we're giving them our time. Not the time. You can have a follow-up meeting afterwards. It is short. It's to the point. It was, hey, everyone, we're really sorry. We had drafted kind of about a 5-minute explanation that we were transparent about where we were at, why we were doing this, not about their individual reasons, because at this point there weren't any. It was mass layoffs due to COVID. But we delivered that news. You know, don't have good news. Here's the deal. You know, we will follow up with paperwork. You know, the CEO handed over to me, and I walked through kind of logistics. And then he actually went to the retained meeting. So the managers kicked off the group that was being retained, let them know that unfortunately we're needing to let some people go. There's another Zoom meeting happening, that was happening. And then, you know, really focusing on the future and what that means for them now that they're staying, and reassuring them. So the CEO left the departed meeting, went over to the meeting with the retained staff, and kind of answered all their questions. It was in there for like an hour and a half. And then basically what I did is I just walked through the logistics of the departing people, let them know that we were following up with emails with their paperwork. I made little 1-pagers about some of the programs that we knew about, the government programs coming available. So they had that at their fingertips. And then we set one-on-one half-an-hour meetings after the fact. So everyone had a chance to come back into Zoom and meet with their manager, the CEO, myself, and the COO to talk about logistics, to vent. Like sometimes you just get yelled at for half an hour, and that's okay. So everyone got their time with the CEO. Everyone got their time to ask me questions about logistics. Everyone got their FaceTime, but they were getting it after the fact. They had information to digest. They had all their numbers for final pay, severance packages, options. All that was handled and sent an email. And then so when we started those meetings, now it took us 3 days to get through those meetings, and it was exhausting. But I really feel strongly that one meeting, rip the Band-Aid off, do the follow-up meetings, is the better way. It makes my stomach like knot up when I hear that someone has to wait 6 hours to know. And you know, people are on Twitter. I remember, I think it was like one of the big gaming companies in San Francisco. The employees were just on Twitter. They're like, they're doing mass layoffs. They're walking so-and-so to the room. Like, some people weren't even getting laid off, and there was just speculation. It was a mess. So I think do it all at once, and then do your follow-up meetings. Yeah.
And I know that you, before I kind of switch directions and talk more about remote culture, although please, if you, for those who have joined us, actually, I wanted to mention too, that you can make use of the chat. Please do introduce yourselves. for those who are new here to the room, and also the Q&A. So if you have any questions, if you're dealing with any of these kind of difficult topics, even if we're talking about something else at the time, please do share your questions. There was one thing that I thought was really interesting that you've mentioned previously around once you've let someone go, your best practice on how to handle them once they're out the door, like what you do in your follow-up with them.
Yeah, for sure. So that was another thing I think we did really well. We really wanted to support people. So actually we had hoped to we actually, we were kind of a little bit early. We saw some of this coming, and we had some investors that really pushed us to get our shit together a little bit earlier before some of these lockdowns and other companies were reactive. So we actually tried to tee up interviews for people before we did departure meetings. There are people still hiring right now. And again, if you're a small company, I'm very well connected in the tech community. So is our CEO. So, other employees, we actually reached out to other employees. I created an employee departure list, a spreadsheet that I shared it among the HR folks that I know, and really tried to promote those people as job seekers. So we let people go, I guess about 6 weeks ago now. There was 27 in total. And 10 people have gotten jobs already. So that was, a lot. Some of them went directly through us. So helping them, I check in with people again. I'm really lucky. This is my full-time job. So a big part of my job right now, every week I send an email to people. I'm reviewing resumes. I'm answering questions. My job before CTO.ai was career services at Lighthouse Labs. So I obviously know some of those job seeking things, but I've been, I set up a Slack channel. It didn't really take, to be honest, but I tried to set up that Slack channel for those job seekers to engage with content and with each other. We obviously encouraged employees that were retained to reach out. So we kind of said, hey, these are still our alumni and in our network and people we care very much about. If we can help them, let's help them, asking people how I can help. And then it's also just giving people space. Straight up, some people have never responded to one email I've sent, but it's not about me. So it's letting them have their thing, and I'll keep reaching out to them. Right. And if, whatever that time, we've kind of said, we'll do this for another 3 months total. And maybe, I'm not sure what that looks like for me to kind of go, hey, I'm still here, but maybe I'll stop sending an email every week since you haven't responded. But it's just about doing that. And then some people have responded with, really emotional emails. And then, but people have to go through their stuff. So some of it's just being there for people, letting people be angry, letting people be an outlet, keeping it professional. I'm not going to tolerate certain stuff, but everyone's been, fairly professional so far. And then, the great thing is we have gotten a couple thank you emails as well, which is nice. Not necessary, not expected, but definitely nice when someone says, thanks for all the support. I really appreciate it. Or thanks for checking in every week. So I think we can still be humans. And I would say one of the coolest things I've seen about COVID is how open people are to helping. Like, people are giving me referral links to their companies. People are taking coffees. They're doing mock interviews. Like, it's actually amazing how much the communities come together to go, how can I help? Even just reviewing the list, and as from the job seeker's perspective, getting someone to even talk to you for an informational interview it doesn't happen normally. People are busy and you're low priority. So I think you can lean in on the community to help your folks. Just like hopefully you're leaning on the community to help you during this time right now too.
Yeah. Amazing. Okay. Thank you so much. All right. So I'm going to switch gears and talk about remote, because I had a question come in. Let me just find it. If you're seeing me look away, it's because I'm taking notes and I'm looking at questions over here, just so everyone's aware. So one of the questions was around for the people who are staying. So staying with the people who are staying. How do you help people keep engaged working remotely? Yes.
Yeah, $1 million question.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, I mean, some of the it's going to look, so the great news is we're not new to this. There are companies that are fully remote. So the first thing I'd say, never reinvent the wheel. Go a place like Buffer, I think Zapier, Slack. They all are remote companies, and they actually have a lot of blog posts about being remote. So there's actually a lot of information about best practices for remote for companies that don't know any different. So definitely lean in on that stuff. There's also a gazillion webinars right now. Lean in on that. Again, I get it. This is part of my full-time job. So you might have to pick and choose the content of the webinars, and they are getting a little bit repetitive at this point. Lean in a few to kind of get that brain going. And then some of the best practices I think is the first one is port your current culture over to remote the best you can. So, take that time, maybe ask your employees, have a brainstorm session, depending how your company works, and say, what did we really love about our culture before we all had to work from home, and what can you translate directly into remote? So for us, a couple really easy ones were really great. We used to do a Friday demo hour with our devs. And we actually, that was from 4 to 5 on Fridays. We usually brought in food, and it was a chance for our devs to showcase what they built in the previous week. It was also a little bit of social time. So we actually made a 3:30 to 5 o'clock demo hour on Fridays. The first half hour is just purely social, which I know companies are also doing, but we really retain that demo hour, which people really liked. Then the other thing is just making sure you're having your regular meetings and doing that kind of thing. I think that more meetings is probably better, especially at the beginning. Me and my boss, we used to meet once a week, and now we're kind of meeting 3 times a week. And we actually started off by meeting 5 days a week, and we just kind of, as we got in our groove, cut that down to 3 times a week. The other thing is working from home. A lot of people actually have trouble taking breaks. Sometimes the fear is, oh, they're not motivated. They're just, not doing work. But actually, a lot of people don't know how to separate those work hours. So one of the things we actually did is we actually put lunchtime in everyone's calendar, just from 12:30 to 1. People can have lunch whenever they want, but the idea is there's no company meetings during that time, and it's totally open. We set a Zoom channel so you can go and eat lunch virtually, which is great. And then, and it just kind of gives people that permission to have a break. The other thing is, do you have a clear start to your day? If you don't already have a daily stand-up, maybe start that at 9:30 in the morning. So again, people have a clear idea when they're expected to start their day, and also when they expected to end their day. So sometimes it's just communicating those expectations with people. And don't think that everyone works the same way you do. If you're really comfortable working from home, or you're really effective working from home, just remember that some people, this is new to them. Some people have children. We can definitely probably talk a lot about that.
We'll get into that.
Two working parents. So it's just spending a little extra time. I think to be honest, like all the entrepreneurs that I've talked to so far, they totally knew all this stuff. I think it's just taking a moment to think about it and really put some conscious and intentional thought into what we're doing is probably the easiest solution, which, you don't need experts to tell you. I haven't really gone to a webinar that's been super earth shattering yet.
No, exactly. Yeah. But it does take that time, like you're saying. And that was, I think, like for a lot of us, the first month of COVID, we're tired because we were just thinking about how to manage this. Exactly. So there's a question here that I know we've talked about previously, so I'm excited someone asked this, which is essentially, how flexible can you be when tracking your employee performance during this time?
Yeah. I mean, again, this is a temporary time. And actually, when Melanie and I talked about it, the first thing I would say is, what was their performance before this time? If you had a poor performer before this time, probably not super surprising they're not rising to the occasion during this time. But again, so I would say you can performance manage during this time. If you are at the point where the performance is like so terrible, we're talking about a termination, just make sure you know what that looks like right now. The landscape has changed and what we can do as employers in regards to terminating folks. But, like anything getting pushed to that, I would just make sure that you're checking with the person, give them lots of chances, make sure expectations are set. And, when possible, try to retain that relationship right now for sure, but like I said, if someone was a poor performer before, that's a big indication. If your average to great performers are not doing so well, I would give a lot more grace and flexibility right now. I think checking with people. The other thing too is make sure there's clear expectations. Companies even companies that are all in the same office, as an HR person, I've seen that where it's not really clear what is deliverable in the day. And this might be a really time to get really clear of like I said, we just implemented OKRs, and it's really helpful to know what exactly is due when, and a manager's making sure they're managing properly, because if people don't know what's expected of them and they're missing those cues, they're missing those touch bases. So that'd be the first question, is make sure that's happening. And then I think checking in with them and just, how's it going for them? Know what's going on, and being upfront. You can still be like, hey, you missed this deadline, or your performance is bad. What do you need? What's going on for you? And have that conversation. But like I said, this is all temporary. I've gross misconduct at this point, you're out the door, in my opinion. But I think there's room for a lot of flexibility and a lot of questions. But at the same time, like, payroll is probably pretty tight for everyone right now. And I think if you have someone that's maybe not where they need to be, making sure that they're aware, you shouldn't be blindsiding anyone with a termination ever, especially now, but making sure that they're aware and that you worked with them and you did everything on your end to make this relationship work. And if it's not working, can you support them with some government programs? That's the great news right now. If someone were to lose their job for any reason, there's so much support out there. I lost my job in 2009 after communicating 3 rounds of layoffs. And there wasn't support during the recession, you know, so there's some blessings and some silver linings right now in that.
Yeah. And kind of what you were saying at the beginning, coming back to that, where you said you're still the boss and your job at the end of the day is to keep your business alive.
Yeah.
So these things happen, tough decisions.
Hard Things, great book.
Yeah. Hard Things About Hard Things. Okay. So I know that something that you can speak to, and everyone, I have another one. Great. I was going to say, we're getting into our last couple of questions from the audience. So if you want to send them in, that would be greatly appreciated. So question here is, how can we develop an onboarding process to keep new employees engaged?
Yeah.
So employees that you're bringing on during COVID, I'm assuming, which is still happening.
Yeah, we brought 2 people on. We had someone start the day before layoffs and work from home. We had hired him, and then he actually started the Wednesday of our first week of work from home. And we did layoffs the Thursday. And then we did bring another senior kind of specialized person
first
on.
week.
It was quite the first week. He's doing awesome. But that was a little bit tough. So I mean, and I have some friends that have started new jobs, so I've actually really dug in here and asked them. So what I can suggest, kind of both of us, and the feedback I've heard is, one, onboarding tends to be onerous anyways when you have new employees, and we like, and the downfall of onboarding, when I see it go badly, is that there's not enough time given to the new employee anyways. There's not enough structure. So all that can go way worse than a remote situation. So you need to make sure you're prepared to onboard someone meaningfully, and that they have a laid out structure and they know what they're going to do with their day. Because before, they could kind of wander around the office and kill a couple hours chatting with people, doing kind of, minuscule things. That doesn't happen at home.
It's like acclimatizing.
I would say map out their day-to-day, hour by hour, for at least the first 2 or 3 weeks. And that doesn't mean you need to spend all that time with them, but make sure they have meetings. And if you're going to give them, and you can give them independent work to do, you can give them research, you can give them case studies, you can give them a project. We've started like some of those interview projects where you ask for people's 30, 60, 90, or you ask them to like analyze something, give a report. We've actually started doing that in our onboarding anyways, which is a really great way for people to learn. It also gives people independent work, so managers don't have to, be by their side all the time. Yeah. So putting that in, but just making sure they have that. The other thing, making sure you have those social touch points. So, we have people, different groups of people doing lunch with this person to start. Cause again, 50 people on a lunch call is not productive. So maybe it's like, this person gets lunch every week. You can still do really fun things. Delivery services are still happening. Probably not Amazon if you haven't planned ahead. They're like 30 days out. But, Skip the Dishes, I think, has gift cards. You can still get lunch delivered. You can still do those things. Booze delivered. We're doing a lot of booze delivery for birthdays lately. So you can still kind of have some fun there. Gifting them ebooks. Great ways.
I like that
kind of gift baskets, like anything kind of like that is still good, depending how much lead time you had when they start. And then I think it's just making sure that they probably need more work than you think. So having some of those projects in your back pocket. But I think literally the easiest way is 3 weeks, know exactly what they're doing every hour of the day and have something to do. And that can include independent work.
Cool. Okay, so I'm hearing a lot of repetition around plan, prepare, and be intentional.
Which really should be, quite frankly,
the norm.
Yeah. So if this is new for you, it's a good time to develop these habits and skills. Will serve your business regardless of our physical situation.
Exactly. No, I found that COVID just exposes gaps in your already existing processes, to be honest. So it's and I know it is a busy time. We hear stories about how everyone has so much time to do all these things, but as small businesses in particular, that's just not the case. But it'll come. And I think just get it in the calendar. This is my time that I'm going to work on my onboarding process.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And then do as Charlyne says and just test it out and know that it's not going to be like this forever. Okay, so I'm cognizant of the time, but I did want to give you a little bit of time to speak to a topic that you're intimately familiar with, which is how to support team members who are also caregivers.
Yeah. So, I mean, the first thing is, again, it's from the lens that everyone's different. So don't assume, like, I have a kid but my situation might be different than someone else who's struggling with the same thing. And the same if you don't have children, don't assume that you know what it means to have children. So it's just, again, approach this as best you can. So some of the strategies, one is going to question, like first is a schedule. What does that look like? So one of the things we did right away for parents, we have a few that have 2 working parents at home. And then we also have some that are, they have one stay-at-home parent anyways, and then that working parent. And the other thing is, don't assume the stay-at-home, like the person who's got like a stay-at-home partner has it easy where they can just lock themselves in a room. My husband can run point on parenting right now due to his job being a little bit more seasonal. My 3-year-old doesn't understand why I can't play with him. Right. He doesn't understand why, I can't drop everything and do a puzzle with him. So those situations look really different. But what I would suggest, the first thing is if they can, get them to suggest a schedule that works for them. So it goes back to questioning, why do we need to work 9 to 5? And in some cases you might, if you're client facing, all those things are some reasons at the 9 to 5, but is every minute of the day client facing? Can they get a schedule that works for them? I would honestly aim like 5 to 6 hours of productive work in a day. Like this is my thing. I mean, maybe don't tell my bosses I've said this, but to be honest,
this is live.
We piss away time in the office, right? Like we're not working 8, 9 hours a day of actual work every day. So it's like, again, adjusting those expectations. And if they get more work done in a good day, great. But I would work with them on that. Can they work with their partner on putting times in the calendar, right? So maybe their partner is also balancing client meetings and you just block off times. One of the things we did really openly is we just, in our calendars, we have to put in if we're parenting / working and setting expectations. So there's time when I'm parenting and working and I'm totally available. There's other times when like I'm running point and parenting and my husband's on a call. So I can't have meetings. That's got to be like, I have to kind of parent first. Any work I get done in that hour and a half is secondary. So it's kind of communicating that. And that's right in my calendar. So people are going to go book a meeting. They can kind of see that. And then also I control that for any external meetings that I take and planning that thing. So working on that. Schedules are also good. Like, when do people do their best work? Can they do, a bunch of focus work in the morning, maybe before their kid gets up, or their partner can run point for the first few hours in the morning. Then they can kind of work / parent for, 3 or 4 hours and then jump on at night and kind of do a split shift. Maybe every day of the week looks different. So again, I think it's really about communication and just really questioning why you need them available at 1 p.m. Is it really a need, or just you're in that 9 to 5 norm, and just challenging that and thinking that. The other thing is, you could do condensed work weeks, depending again on how much work or what the nature of your business is. Can you give them Fridays off? Can they have Friday half days where, that sort of thing. So it's totally a blank slate right now on how we do things. It really just depends on the nature of your business. But I think just checking in with them and I think asking parents how they're doing is really important. The other thing we actually just had to talk about with my company is vacation time, which is something to look around the corner. If you're going to end up with a bunch of pay liability, people not taking vacation, we actually, after we get through kind of adjusting for Q2, we're actually going to be talking to people about maybe taking vacation or just letting people know they can take vacation, which is good for us because it uses up some of that vacation liability that people are accumulating. But we also want people to be refreshed. And we know that just even being able to unapologetically binge watch Netflix all day or go for a hike or something can still be time to recharge and refresh. And as parents, I think that could be a thing. So you can get really creative with vacation time if you have a very generous policy. Yeah, all those kind of things.
Interesting. Yes. Vacation time, very difficult. I feel like it's harder to, it almost feels like it's harder to ask for vacation time. I'm a founder, so I have to ask myself. It's hard for me to ask myself. Just to it's hard. It's weird when even though I'm 100% remote all the time, it's weird still to be like, I need to take a day off. It feels weird. I'm not gonna lie.
And if it feels weird for you as the founder,
I know.
What does it feel like for your employees, right?
Exactly.
So it's just opening that up and saying, hey, giving permission, hey guys, just a reminder, reminding people of your vacation policy, because we are hitting that, June is 6 months into the year. So all those things, reminding people of you carryover. Are you going to make adjustments for this year? Maybe you are going to allow carryover, but and also just encouraging people to take time for themselves. I think at this point, especially, we weren't sure how long this was going to be. And I think, I believe there's kind of 2 types of people. I think some people hit the ground running on the work from home and maybe are struggling now. I think some other people, that's me as well, straight up. I think some other people maybe struggle to hit the ground running and they may have found a groove. And then there's some people that struggle hitting the ground running. And then they've also are dealing with just the fact that this has been going on a long time, and we're just so uncertain of what the break is going to look like. So yeah, I think encouraging people to take time off and making that the norm, that take a day and just be online.
Oh, let's see. I wonder if companies will plan ahead for the possibility of a lot of people wanting to book vacation when this is quote unquote over, whatever that means.
Yep. And that's exactly why I say encourage people to take vacation time. Now, that's a conversation I just had with my COO. So one of the things, in Canada, I think it's Canada-wide, don't quote me, definitely in BC, as an employer, you can tell people when they take vacation. You actually can say, hey guys, office is closed for a week, take your vacation. Like you can mandate that. So you do have control as an employer to manage that payroll liability, because vacation is a bit of a payroll liability, but also that's where it's like planning ahead and going, okay, obviously Christmas is the one time a lot of people tend to be slower in the Christmas period. So, or holiday period, sorry. So can you, let people know that the office will be closed? Can you kind of catch up at that point and kind of say, okay, everyone, the office is closed, use your vacation time. But also asking people right now to plan for vacation. And that's where you can get creative too, of like, if you have big vacation banks, can people work half day Fridays for 4 months? It's a great way to use a vacation, gives people some time, like, be flexible on that side of thing. But I think it's smart to be planning. Vacation is a payroll liability. So you don't want to end up at the year, and you don't want to end up the year with 20 people requesting vacation for 2 weeks off and not being able to get your work done, because you're going to have to say no to people, which isn't good for morale either, especially because I'm sure people are going to be desperate for vacations if we're so lucky to get to take any sort of vacation in 2020.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So that comes back in my mind to the transparency conversation that we're having. So we have about 5 minutes left here, and I've been taking notes madly. I hope that everyone else has been, and if not, go back and watch it again. There's so many good like tactical pieces and checklists and things to work through for so many different kinds of conversations and situations you might be in. And what I was hearing was, again, a lot of that, like, it's all temporary, the gift of the small business, that you can be agile, to question things, to be transparent in your conversations, and remember that they are human to human conversations, to plan and prepare, set clear expectations, and to simply just check in and know that we don't really know what's going on. Like Charlyne was saying, there's all these webinars and we're all just kind of saying the same things over and over, because this is what we know, and this is completely unprecedented time. So do you have anything that you'd like to sign off with? Any final remarks?
Yeah, no, I think you kind of nailed it. I think it's that balance between people and business. I think, the best thing you can do for your people is to plan and prepare and be transparent. And then it's just human. And right now, I feel like it's almost comforting, the fact that we know we're going to be in this for a little bit longer. So we can just kind of prepare and know what that looks like. And then I think try to find, like they keep telling us in our lives, try to find the benefit this time. So what can you do as a business to kind of set yourself up for success when the world does open up again, right? Is this the time to, focus on one area? I know for us, like, we were trying to develop a product, sell a product, develop a community, all in parallel, as many startups do. And we actually now are like, okay, cool, no one's buying our product. Let's focus on getting this product really awesome, but let's in parallel develop a community. And that's kind of fun, instead of just selling to customers. Like, we get to be a little bit, and we hired a very senior community manager who has experienced in remote community stuff. So we're excited to kind of develop that, so that when we hit the ground running, when this all opens up, we actually have people to hit the ground running with. And then even myself as an HR professional, I've looked at I've done an audit of our policies and procedures. I'm relatively new in my role, but I've gone, oh, cool. Now might be a really great time to do some research and maybe think through a really creative performance review process. So that when we come around to that again next March, maybe I can do something really cool and have the time to roll that out and just take the time to plan for things. Because, what else do I have to do right now? And like I said, I'm learning so much, courses online and webinars, because I have that period to do that right now.
So people don't have the time to do this and want to glean all of your knowledge from you. What is the best way for them to be in contact?
Yeah, so obviously my LinkedIn is great. I'm on it fairly recently. regularly these days. And then I do have the Pick My Brain profile. So as an advisor at Volition, you can book time with me. There's free coffee options if you just kind of need a tidbit of information. If it's quick questions, you can also just LinkedIn me. And then if you've got to work through bigger things, I'm happy to book some sessions with you and give you dedicated time and kind of more tactical strategies customized to your business to help you get through this.
Awesome. Thank you so much. All right, I put the slide back up here. So if you want to get a hold of Charlyne and learn from her, if you have these specific questions, as I'm sure we all do, and as I'm sure we all will in the next 12 to 18 months, I think we'll be booking another Ask Me Anything with Charlyne in just a few months. And because I'm sure the world will look completely different again, and we'll have completely new questions because every week it seems to be different kinds of questions that we're seeing. So thank you so much, everyone who's here. Thank you for everyone who's on Zoom, Facebook, both Zoom and Facebook, and for submitting your questions. So this is our last AMA for a couple of weeks. So essentially we ran AMAs for March and for April with a lot of our advisors. Go check out our YouTube and our Facebook live page, and this will be up there in just a moment as well. And check those out. And we're going to be creating some content from those over the next month, but we're focusing more on our pitch events and a new founder chat series on our Instagram live as well this upcoming month. But we're going to be back with our AMAs. We should have at least one in May, and then we'll be back with them in June, and we're just figuring out what that looks like. So thanks everyone for coming to these. And just really, it was really great for me to do this and get to know you better as well, Charlyne.
Yeah.
Because we haven't had a chance to really get to know each other. So I think this is such a great way to get to know the people on our team, for me as well as for everyone who's
good engagement thing.
Exactly. So exactly. Yeah, the virtual community development is such a good time to do that. Cool. So thank you so much. For those who are online, I'm going to be stopping our live, but I think that's my sign off. So thanks everyone for coming, and I hope you have a lovely rest of your day wherever you are in the world.
Stay safe.
Stay safe. Yes. Bye everyone.